I ask unanimous consent that the chair be authorized to declare a recess at any time during today's hearing. Without objection, so ordered. I also ask unanimous consent that members not on the subcommittee be permitted to sit with the subcommittee at today's hearing and ask questions. Without objection, so ordered. As a reminder, please keep your microphones muted unless speaking. Should I hear any inadvertent background noise, I will request that the members please mute their microphone. And to insert a document into the record, please have your staff email it to documentsti@mail.house.gov. Good morning and welcome to today's hearing on the review of fiscal year 2023 budget request for the Coast Guard and Maritime Transportation programs. Today we will hear directly from the Commandant and Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, the Chair of the Federal Maritime Commission, and Acting Administrator of the Maritime Administration on the President's budget request and agency priorities. We begin with testimony from the Coast Guard, which has nearly 40,500 active duty military members, 8,000 reservists, and 9,000 civilian employees who carry out the service's missions, including port and waterway security, marine environmental protection, border safety, and search and rescue, among others. Despite the agency's importance as one of the 6 branches of our military, the Coast Guard is chronically underfunded and overextended even during its largest recapitalization effort since World War II. To ensure our service members have the equipment, personnel, and support systems they need to complete their missions and return home safe, the service must be supported with every available resource. Following the Coast Guard, I look forward to hearing from the FMC on how it plans to address supply chain issues and ensure fairness in ocean shipping. The agriculture industry, which includes many farmers and growers in my home state of California, continue to be negatively impacted by these supply chain issues. As the federal agency tasked with enforcing international shipping regulations, FMC has key authorities which allow it to secure an even playing field for participants of maritime commerce and continue to promote American jobs. Last but not least, I look forward to Merit discussing its plans to revitalize the American maritime industry, from ports and infrastructure to our shrinking U.S. flag fleet and the availability of merchant mariners. Acting Administrator Leslie has done a phenomenal job facilitating efforts to upend the toxic culture that's allowed sexual assault and harassment to fester within the maritime industry. Her leadership on Embark and her work to bring industry along is remarkable and does not go unnoticed. We have a long way to go, but I believe her leadership and the passage of the Safer Seas Act, of which I'm an original co-sponsor, will help protect future mariners and bring justice to victims. Ms. Leslie, Chair DeFazio and I stand ready to help you. Merit oversees vital grant programs, including the Maritime Security Program, the New Tanker Security Program, META, and the Port Infrastructure Development Program, which give maritime users the opportunity to improve the safety, efficiency, and reliability of their operations shoreside and at sea. This benefits mariners, the U.S. economy, and our irreplaceable natural environment. To give one example, META, the Maritime Environmental and Technical Assistance Program, supports the research, development, installation, and use of new carbon technologies that are safe, affordable, and sustainable. Investing in such innovations is crucial to positioning the United States as a leader in the global marketplace and help reduce our carbon pollution within the transportation sector. For Merit, I'm particularly interested in how the Port Infrastructure Development Program will support the Morro Bay Wind Energy Project offshore of my district, building out the port infrastructure to receive and transmit this energy, as well as creating laydown space for shoreside wind turbine staging, is of critical importance and will take a significant investment. This project is especially timely for areas in my home district, such as San Luis Obispo County, who may need federal assistance to take full advantage of this budding energy industry. I will end my remarks here by thanking our witnesses and attendees for their participation. I want to especially thank Commandant Admiral Schultz, as he will be retiring from his position in June. Admiral Schultz has given his entire career in service to this country and has been knowledgeable and a genial leader for the Coast Guard in his work with us in Congress also for the past 4 years. I wish you a fulfilling next chapter of your life. I hope today's testimonies and the discussions that follow will call Congress's attention to priorities within America's vital maritime domain. Now I'd like to call on Subcommittee Ranking Member, Mr. Gibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. First, I want to congratulate Commandant Admiral Schultz as he completes his long service to the nation this next month. He has done much to repair the damage done to the service's budget by the Budget Control Act and has begun what will be a long road to upgrading the Coast Guard's digital capabilities to those needed by the 21st century law enforcement, marine safety, and environmental stewardship service. I'm sure I speak for all my subcommittee colleagues in wishing you well as you leave the Coast Guard, in which you have served more than 40 years. Congratulations. Wish you all the best. While we do celebrate your service to the Coast Guard, I have to mention the issues the Guard must address in your absence. Since you appeared before the subcommittee last July, nothing seems to have happened with respect to completing the regulations implementing the recommendations of the Atlantic Coast Port Route Study. I look forward to hearing whether we are in any danger of seeing those regulations be made final in the near future, or will the Coast Guard continue to defer those to the Interior Department. I continue to believe the Coast Guard should take its role as the primary federal agency responsible for maritime navigation and safety seriously, rather than act as an adjunct permit reviewer for the Department of Interior. I was heartened to see in the FY23 increase in the request for the Coast Guard's operating and support account, but as always, I'm extremely disappointed in the perennial reduction in the procurement, construction, and improvement account. The account falls from an appropriate level of more than $2 billion in FY22 and a House passed authorized level of $3.4 billion in FY23 to a requested appropriation level of $1.6 billion for FY23. That level of funding will not even allow the Coast Guard to hold steady on the billions of dollars of shoreside construction and maintenance needs, prevent the service from falling further behind in its IT infrastructure, and allow progress on the service's far behind schedule cutter acquisition program. I urge the Commandant to assure his legacy by telling us that he supports the acquisition of the 12th National Security Cutter before that production line grows cold and the opportunity is lost. I will work to see that the Congress steps in yet again to reverse the budget's request's harmful impact on the Coast Guard's acquisition budget and in turn protect the service's future mission capabilities. Like last year, I noticed no funds are requested for the new Great Lakes icebreaker. I will work with my Great Lakes colleagues to correct this oversight. I'm also interested in whether a common hull design could be used for a Great Lakes icebreaker and the National Arctic Security Cutter, if the Coast Guard remains committed to a two-size polar icebreaker program. I think that could make sense. A provision included in H.R. 6865 sets minimum standards for alternative oil spill response planning criteria in Western Alaska. The section provides new authority that only applies if the Coast Guard determines that the national planning criteria don't apply in Western Alaska. The Coast Guard has refused to set such criteria, thus leaving it to Congress to do the job. I regret that the Coast Guard has the difficulty understanding that the plain language of this section, and I look forward to continuing to work with the service on this issue. An unprecedented surge of imported cargo is pressure testing the U.S. supply chain. Both the House and Senate have passed ocean shipping reform measures at the behest of the beleaguered importers and exporters who are finding their products delayed in reaching their destinations. Thus far, as I have understood it, the Federal Maritime Commission has found no collusion or illegal anti-competitive manipulation of vessels and equipment. However, I look forward to hearing from our former colleague and now Federal Maritime Commission Chairman Dan Maffei to describe what resources the Commission needs to assure that a robust effective, ongoing ocean shipping regulatory program is maintained. I'm pleased again to see a former Coast Guard and Maritime Transportation Subcommittee staffer, Linda Leslie, back today as the acting Maritime Administrator. I look forward to hearing today what actions the Maritime Administration is taking to tighten down cargo preference regulations and ensure that all federal agencies abide by this important mandatory set-asides of cargo for carriage in U.S. flagged vessels. I'm also interested to hear from MARAD has received availability of determination requests in regard to the increased rate of discharge from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. I now would like to call on Chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Mr. DeFazio.
Thank you, Chairman Carvajal. Thanks for this important hearing today. You know, all of the witnesses here before us today play a vital role. The Coast Guard, the Federal Maritime Commission, the Maritime Administration, in our marine transportation system, and obviously as an ocean-going nation, we have tremendous needs in this area. I want to start the same way as you did, and the ranking member, by congratulating the Admiral, thanking him for his strong leadership. Chief, thank you. These were pretty tough and turbulent times for the Coast Guard, and you've gotten through it in good shape. For whatever you're going to do next, best wishes. I'd also like to congratulate, although she's not yet confirmed, I expect will be confirmed, Admiral Linda Fagan, who's not here today, but as the next commandant and I think a tremendous successor to Admiral Schultz, and I look forward to working with her during my remaining time in Congress. For the fiscal year 23, Coast Guard has requested $13.82 billion, so 1.3% increase over last year. Now, that's better than what you proposed last year, which was a 0.3% increase. But given the current rate of inflation, and you are obviously going to be subjected to that in many ways, shoreside costs, fuel for the ships and all that, I really don't think that that's going to be an adequate amount of funding. I have ongoing concerns who are expressed by others about the problems on your shoreside infrastructure. Particularly the inadequate housing. We have inadequate, child care. Those are complaints I hear a lot. And in the areas where there's inadequate housing, they have to go into the private market. Rents are skyrocketing. It's very difficult. And if we want to do what we need to do to recruit and retain our coasties, we've got to do better for their working conditions, and that's really a tremendous concern. When I was in Coos Bay, when the Commandant was there, I think it was a year ago last summer, to get the award, we saw what they were doing to renovate some housing. It was a start, but we need to do a heck of a lot more of that. And you're proposing to recruit 4,200 people this year. That's a pretty high number. I hope you can achieve it. But then once we achieve it, we want to keep them. We want them to do full careers. So, as you know, during the shutdown, I was very upset about the lack of pay for the Coast Guard. Attempted to move legislation to prohibit that from happening in the future, but was unsuccessful at that point in time. The decrease in funding for shore facilities and aids to navigation is puzzling to me with the backlog we have. And, I want to learn more how you came at 180. I assume it was the trolls over at OMB putting pressure on you. Anyway, I'd be interested in plumbing the depths of that. I'm constantly trying to deal with Office of Management budget would be much better off without them, but that's for another day. With regards to the Maritime Administration, MARAD's vital, for the successful management of our maritime shipbuilding industries. I am constantly trying to see that we do more U.S., build more U.S. ships, and also that we have a more competitive shipping industry. I note that the cartel of 3 major shippers made more money last year than they made over the last decade. And yet we don't think there's some, collusion or, price gouging or taking advantage of the excuses of the pandemic or whatever in that. It's a real problem. And I want to learn more about the decrease in your port infrastructure development program request compared to the 22 enacted. It all starts with port capacity. In fact, I'm advocating at this point for a mega project so that we can have a new container port. It would be the first direct ship-to-rail container port on the West Coast, obviously very efficient, very environmentally responsible. And that would be in Coos Bay, Oregon, and it can add 10% to West Coast capacity. There's not a lot more land area in LA Long Beach, and it's a heck of a long steam up the Columbia River to Portland. Coos Bay has a lot of advantages if the administration has the vision to move forward with that, and I'm hopeful they will. The president did mention it when he was in Portland last week. But I am pleased to see an increase in the operations training budget, and some of this goes to the Merchant Marine Academy, and we need a lot of repairs for aged buildings and facilities and dorms and things there, and I'm also pleased to support the embark measures which have been designed to protect cadets against sexual assault and sexual harassment. Last year, the Academy has faced a lot of scrutiny regarding its culture of safety for good reason. Fortunately, I've witnessed steadfast leadership of Merit's acting administrator, Ms. Lucinda Leslie, during this time, and she has worked diligently to motivate a major cultural shift at the Academy despite resistance, and I have every confidence that she'll continue to lead capably, competence, integrity, and hold steadfast on the changes we need. The Federal Maritime Commission, I'm pleased to see a 5.5% increase requested for overall funding, so we can begin, hopefully, as the ranking member mentioned, that we haven't found a collusion, but we know there is a collusion. We're dealing with shipping cartels. And you need those resources to enhance your oversight and enforcement capabilities, that's critically needed to lower the cost of shipping, which is going to help with inflation, that I look forward to hearing from all of our witnesses today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. DeFazio. I would now like to welcome the witnesses. Admiral Carl Schultz, Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, Master Chief Jason Vanderheyden, Master Chief Petty Officer of the United States Coast Guard, the Honorable Daniel Maffei, Chairman of the Federal Maritime Commission, Ms. Lucinda Leslie, Acting Administrator of the Maritime Administration. Thank you for being here today, and I look forward to your testimony. Without objection, our witnesses' full statements will be included in the record. Since your written testimony has been made part of the record, the subcommittee requests that you limit your oral testimony to 5 minutes. With that, Admiral Schultz, you may proceed.
Well, good morning, Chairman DeFazio, Chairman Carbajal, Ranking Member Gibbs, distinguished members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. On behalf of the entire service, I thank you for your enduring support of the Coast Guard and our efforts to restore service readiness. Our 2022 fiscal year appropriation reflects Congress's continued commitment to addressing the Coast Guard's readiness challenges and maintaining progress on surface, aviation, and infrastructure recapitalization, while also highlighting the service's increasing role in shaping global maritime affairs and national security. Because of your support, we're acquiring the nation's first new heavy polar icebreakers in almost a half-century to enable a U.S. presence in the geostrategically important high-latitude regions. The operations and support increase of more than 20% between the 2019 and 2022 budgets and the administration's 2023 budget requests better positions the Coast Guard by investing in our mission-ready total workforce, mission-enabling technologies, and modern assets and capabilities to meet the challenges today and in the future. But critically important work remains. To advance our national, economic, and environmental security interests in an increasingly complex, geopolitical, and technologically sophisticated environment, we must maintain this growth through our operational funding and a keen focus on the resilience of our capital infrastructure. As a multi-mission service, we are exceptionally agile and adaptive, executing our 11 statutory missions simultaneously. And we must apply these same skills to build a stable and predictable PC&I funding of $2.0 billion plus annually to optimize our ability to plan the recapitalization of both our facilities and our assets. While we have been very successful in replacing frontline operational units devastated by recent years' hurricanes, my crews on the Great Lakes praying for hurricanes to reach their region is a poor way and an unacceptable way to do business. The administration's 2023 budget request supports continued progress on the offshore patrol program, cutter program, absolutely vital to replacing the capability provided by our legacy fleet of 210-foot and 270-foot medium endurance cutters, which largely operate in the Atlantic. These legacy assets have served the nation with distinction, some for 55 years, but are increasingly more difficult and expensive to maintain. The budget request also enables us to grow our fleet of MH-60 Jayhawk helicopters, which operate with national and offshore patrol cutters as force multipliers. New Jayhawk hulls or converted former Navy airframes per our Sundowner program will enable us to optimize Coast Guard aviation operations both in near coast and distant waters. Beyond 2023, we must continue to restore the Coast Guard the nation needs to ably conduct domestic operations, facilitating the economic engine that is the marine transportation system, as 95% of overseas trade enters or leaves the U.S. by ship, as well as resourcing expanded operations abroad in support of our national interests, including those detailed in the White House's recent Indo-Pacific strategy. The Coast Guard contributes significantly to domestic as well as global maritime safety and security by employing our service's unique blend of authorities and capabilities collaboratively alongside our interagency and international partners to achieve national objectives across a broad spectrum of strategic challenges. We are currently executing about $1.4 billion dedicated to improving shore facilities across our service, including $350 million provided in the 2022 appropriation that supports 11 critical shore facility investments, as well as a supplemental inject of $430 million provided by Congress as part of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, which in itself funds 18 distinct projects. We are grateful for this generous funding, which enables us to address some of our aging infrastructure, including inventory that dates back to the late 18th century, as well as provide new infrastructure for new assets we are fielding. But our legacy assets remain vital operational contributors, and we cannot shortchange their maintenance and sustainment funding. Our forces are disaggregated across America's coastal communities at roughly 1,000 individual units. Hence, we maintain a significant inventory and backlog for both recapitalization of infrastructure and asset maintenance. We are appreciative in the 22 funding that supports 26 new engineering positions, civil engineers specifically, to help action those funds. This additional support to manage and execute this critically important infrastructure work will help us tackle projects at the speed of need. Like the other DoD and Armed Forces and DHS operational components, the reality of high inflation as well as the needs of a modern workforce warrant immediate review and retooling of our policies to recruit, train, and retain the finest talent in order to sustain service readiness. While we've diligently addressed policies to eliminate barriers to success, we must inject additional creativity in our thinking about how we organize and employ people to continue to meet operational demands. The key to our success has always been and will remain our people, the backbone of our service, and previously stated, they stand to watch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, always ready for the call. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Admiral Schultz. Next, we will go to Master Chief Vanderhaden. You may proceed.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Chairman DeFazio. Sir, it's been an honor to serve with you. Thank you for for inviting me and allowing me to be your guest at the State of the Union address. That was one of the highlights of my life, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. Chairman Carbajal, Ranking Member Gibbs, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, I want to join Admiral Schultz in extending my utmost gratitude on behalf of the men and women of the Coast Guard for your enduring support of our efforts to restore service readiness. This is likely the final time I'll appear before the committee as Master Chief of the Coast Guard, because I also am retiring later next month. As I reflect on the last 34 years, I'm proud to observe how much the Coast Guard has grown to better serve our American people. I want to thank the members of this subcommittee and the Congress for helping the service continually evolve to meet the complex challenges facing our nation. Your advocacy has been and continues to be essential to ensure that we provide the best mission execution and that we remain always ready. The Coast Guard's relatively small force executes a broad array of missions, and we're successful because we foster an empowering environment where all our members understand the importance of their service to their nation. As with all services, the Coast Guard faces numerous challenges. The current challenge I'm most concerned with is our ability to recruit and retain the workforce needed to operate our cutters, boats, and aircraft. And a close second concern is the exponential increase in the cost of housing facing our Coast Guard families. As we replace our aging assets, the new cutters, helicopters, and planes being built require us to grow our workforce, and that we're prepared to operate these new amazing assets. The Coast Guard enjoys the highest retention rate of all the military services. However, like the rest of the country, we are challenged to find the next generation of dedicated men and women who can and will serve in the military. It's an all-hands-on-deck effort to attract the best and brightest, and that's why we're expanding our Everyone is a Recruiter program. Finding new ways to attract talent to the Coast Guard is tricky. If any of you know anybody that wants to serve in the Coast Guard, I've got some Coast Guard swag for you, and we can hand that out. So we are really working hard to recruit, but it's a tough recruiting environment right now. A close second to recruiting is retention. If we want to grow, we have to keep the people we have, but housing costs are making it almost impossible for our people to find a place to live. With the dispersed nature of the 5th largest branch of the U.S. military, your Coast Guard, our members are forced to live on the economy in most places. Our people are having to live very far from their units, giving them untenable commute times. It is having a detrimental effect on the service members and their families. I know you can't bring housing costs down, but we need some legislative help in addressing the speed and flexibility to assess housing costs. The Basic Allowance for Housing Costs assessment system lags far behind the actual cost, especially for the Coast Guard. This lag means that the rates never reflect the actual costs that our people are paying for housing. Policy changes are helpful for retention, but we are always looking to do more to retain our best and brightest. Having a mentor is proving to be very helpful to improving retention. We have seen outstanding participation in our new mobile-enabled mentoring program that connects mentors and mentees through traditional one-on-one mentoring on a global basis. We have thousands of Coast Guard members using this new program, and that number is growing every day. 28% of those users are women, and we're finding the program is very popular with our affinity groups and other underrepresented members. In fact, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, DHS, and many of our other federal government partners are using the Coast Guard as a model for their mentoring programs. The Coast Guard is diligently developing innovative strategies to build the workforce of the future. We recognize the imperative to be an employer of choice that reflects the public we serve. We are incorporating recommendations and best practices from several workforce studies along with human resource management software improvements into a Ready Workforce 2030 strategy. We are currently developing the implementation plan for that strategy, which will help us leverage data and technology to improve the quality of life for our people. As I depart the Coast Guard, I want to thank you on behalf of the entire Coast Guard. You all have demonstrated, not just by word, but by action, how much you care about the Coast Guard. Your staffs have enabled a small force to complete an incredible amount of service to our country. You have improved our morale by making each Coastie more effective and efficient in their duties, and with your continued support, we'll be able to provide more and better service to our wonderful nation. Thank you for inviting me to testify today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Master Chief Van Hayden. Let me just say that I neglected to also recognize and thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
For some reason, it just escaped my mind that you two were retiring. So congratulations. Thank you for your service and leadership over your career, but as well as these past 4 years working with the Commandant to make sure that you guys provide extraordinary leadership for the Coast Guard in our nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor.
Next, we'll go to Mr. Maffei. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Carbajal, Ranking Member Gibbs, Full Committee Chairman DeFazio, and members of the subcommittee. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to testify in support of the Federal Maritime Commission fiscal year 2023 budget request and answer your questions. The Commission seeks just under $34.7 million to support its operations in the coming fiscal year. This would be a substantial increase, a bit over 5% from our FY22 enacted budget. The increase would go mainly to enforcement and consumer assistance, since we continue to receive large numbers of complaints commensurate with the high freight rates, diminished reliability, increased delays, and shortages of equipment, such as containers and chassis, that currently plague our ports and ocean transportation. We strive our best to review every potential case thoroughly for violations of the law and do all we can to assist importers, and especially exporters, manage in a system where the capacity is simply unable to meet the continuing surge of demand that started early in the COVID-19 pandemic. That said, we are a small agency of fewer than 120 people regulating an estimated $1.33 trillion of commerce. As I have indicated to the subcommittee before, there are potential enforcement cases that we cannot examine, or at least not as thoroughly and expeditiously as they might merit, because we simply do not have enough capacity. Your and your colleagues' response to this situation is why I am bold enough to ask you for this increase, while understanding that you are contending with intense pressures on the federal budget. I also want to make it clear that while I advocate for an increase in resources and I support bipartisan bills to enhance our authority, the FMC is not waiting for these things. We're already taking action on multiple fronts. We have increased monitoring and enforcement activity, paying particular attention to ocean cargo carriers and their alliances, and I have directed our Enforcement Bureau to prioritize export cases. We have initiated a new focus on addressing fees and surcharges with the goal of bringing greater transparency to what shippers actually have to pay. We have provided guidance to shippers on bringing complaints to the FMC, and we are seeing a marked increase in cases being filed. With the support and advice of my Commission colleagues, I directed the FMC to audit the major container carrier companies to encourage and facilitate compliance on the Commission's detention and demurrage rules and their legal obligation not to discriminate against exports. The Commission is acting on all of the non-legislative recommendations of the fact-finding investigation on pandemic-related effects led by Commissioner Rebecca Dye. These include launching a new rulemakings to set forth standards governing detention and demurrage billing practices, issuing policy statements that address barriers to filing action at the FMC, and placing an export advocate in our Consumer Affairs Bureau. Through multiple initiatives, such as Commissioner Dye's supply chain innovation teams and Commissioner Carl Bensel's data initiative, we have started tackling the complex issue of shortages of usable equipment, such as export containers and chassis, and the difficulties that shippers face in getting reliable, useful information, such as when ships will actually take on export cargoes. These efforts are contributing to increased incentives on the container ship lines and terminal operators to work together with America's shippers to solve problems rather than cause them. I am gratified that some longtime critics of ours are saying that they have not seen so much positive activity at the FMC in years and perhaps ever. All of this said, the supply chain challenges are complex and interconnected. Cargo transportation in foreign nations, as well as the United States, as we have seen with the Shanghai issues in this past week, and at sea, at ports, and inland, has all come up short when it comes to satisfying the vast demand for ocean shipping. No single government agency is capable of addressing all these issues, so the FMC works across government, as well as with industry stakeholders, to find solutions to improve our nation's cargo transportation networks. In ocean shipping, however, the FMC is at the vanguard, and if legislation pending before Congress is enacted into law, as I hope it will be, our workload will further increase. This is the right time to invest in the ability of the Commission to hold accountable the industry we regulate and meet the needs of American shippers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maffei. And next, Ms. Leslie, you may proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Carbajal, Ranking Member Gibbs, and of course, Chairman DeFazio, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear. I also want to thank you for your support and leadership as we have worked to address the many challenges at the Merchant Marine Academy and to support culture change throughout the maritime industry. Your leadership, support, and that of your staffs has been absolutely essential to all of our efforts, and I just can't thank you enough. I am honored to appear with my colleagues, Admiral Carl Schultz, Commandant of the Coast Guard, Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard Vanderheyden, and of course Chairman Maffei, to testify on the President's fiscal year 2023 budget priorities for the Maritime Administration. I'd like to begin by providing an update on Sea Year. As has been discussed last year, we made the difficult decision to briefly pause the Merchant Marine Academy's Sea Year training aboard commercial vessels so that we could institute new safety policies to help prevent sexual assault and harassment, to support survivors, and to strengthen a culture of accountability. We developed a program called the Every Mariner Builds a Respectful Culture, or EMBARC, which enumerates new safety requirements for vessels that carry our cadets. MARAD will not place cadets on commercial vessels that have not enrolled in EMBARC. We have critically also instituted new policies at the Merchant Marine Academy to improve the support we provide to our cadets at sea and to try to remove barriers to reporting when assault or harassment do occur. Cadet embarkations resumed in December, initially on training vessels and vessels operated by the Navy, the Military Sea Lift Command, and the U.S. Coast Guard. We thank them for their support of our midshipmen, and I particularly want to thank Admiral Schultz for his leadership, for the unwavering support of the Coast Guard at all stages of this effort. With their assistance, the members of the class of 2023 are accumulating the sea time they need to graduate on time. If, however, due to any unforeseen circumstances, a midshipman is not able to accrue all required sea time, Coast Guard has indicated that a midshipman can still take their license exam at the expected time and then complete all required sea time. No one will leave the academy without all of the sea time they need to obtain their licenses. As of today, we have, I'm pleased to announce, 7 commercial carriers enrolled in EMBARC. We just enrolled one more this morning. Through continuous review, we will work to identify areas where our policies fall short and improve them, and we will work to support urgently needed culture change across the maritime industry. We know we did not get everything right. We have put EMBARC in the Federal Register and encourage everyone who has comments to submit them. Turning to the budget request to address critical infrastructure gaps while fostering and sustaining job opportunities in the maritime industry, the President's fiscal year 2023 budget requests $906 million for MARAD. The bipartisan infrastructure law also provides $450 million in advance appropriations for our Port Infrastructure Development Program, which I know is a priority for the subcommittee. This funding, when coupled with the budget request, represents a nearly $1.4 billion investment in the merchant marine and the maritime industry. Looking first at Sea Lift, the budget requests $318 million in full funding for the Maritime Security Program, which will continue to assure the Department of Defense's access to the 60 ships enrolled in the program. The budget request also continues funding for the, would continue funding for the Tanker Security Program, and we look forward to the enrollment of 10 U.S. flag tankers. MARAD, of course, maintains 41 ready reserve vessels that provide sea lift surge capacity in support of our military. Funding from DoD in 2023 would enable MARAD to continue to maintain this sea lift support and to advance essential recapitalization